Welcome back to a new class of AI, ML, DS, and Big Data. So, the topic of this class is going to be conditional statements and loop. So, today's goal is to understand the core building blocks which is used in every AI, machine learning, data science, and big data program. And the most important topic of this class is going to be conditional statement and loop. Before getting into our practical part of the class, we have to understand what is conditional statement and what are loops. So first off, let's just open up PyCharm on our screen. And the next thing that I'm going to suggest you is make sure you have a stable internet connection. And also make sure that you have the stable version of Python and not to skip any part of this class. So let's just open up PyCharm, or if you're using VS Code, then just follow through. So, as you can see on my screen, I have opened up PyCharm. Now, first off, let's just create a new project. Now, instead of project like VENV, click on Custom Environment. Now, over here, inherit the packages, and I'm going to rename my file. Now, here, I'm going to put in conditional statement loop. Now press on create and wait for a bit and make sure to click on generate new and also virtual environment. If you want the most stable version of Python, make sure to click on 3.12, which is the most stable, but it does have a couple of bugs. So it will just guide you in the same process. Press on create and wait for a bit until the virtual environment and the interface opens up on your screen. Just like this, if you're connected to the internet, you will see that the virtual environment will be created on the left side of the project panel. Now, first off, we have to know about the topics. At the bottom, you will see that it is going to start indexing and it is going to update these skeletons because it is going to be more suitable for you to be able to work in the best functional environment. Now, what is conditional statement? Well, conditional statements are basically compromised or composed of if, elif, and the else, which is basically used for decision making for in every aspect of using Python. Now, even if you want to work with Python in the most basic cases, you're still going to need conditional statement. Even if you want to get into machine learning or even big data or data science, it is still going to help you in the long run. So, if we want to make it more simple, it is the type of function or it is the process where data meets the criteria or the requirement or the condition to do specific stuffs. And on the other hand, we have the loop, which is basically used for automation and repetition of specific function or process or running a program. It also includes using variables like multiple times, repeatedly, and even in other projects. So, it can repeat the task for all types of data or all types of function, but you just have to make sure that you are using the loops in the right way. In loops, you will find out the while loop and also the for loop. So these are the basic things that you are going to be using, which is ML model, training loop, data cleaning, big data processing, AI rule-based engines, and automation scripts. So, as we have this class or the file made up over here, the first thing that I want to start off with is going to be the conditional loop. So here, I'm going to create a Python file. I'm going to make sure conditional condi example. Okay, so there we go. We have our first Python file. And in this file, I'm going to be showing you how the conditional statements work. So here, I'm going to put in example. So, just like I said at the beginning, it helps you to make conditional statements and lets your program make decisions based on your data. So there is if, elif, and the else. So first off, you put in the if, and then you define in the condition. Now after the condition, you put in a colon, and then you put in the code. This is the code, how it is going to work. Then we put in the elif, which is the second code. Okay? Now, even though this is just, an example, so I'm going to put in the code again. And to finish off this function or this process, we put in else at the end, so that if none of the condition is met up, it just shows you off the third code. So here I'm just going to put in another code. So this is going to be the example of how your code is going to work, and this is the structure of using the conditional statements in Python. Now, as we know the examples and how the syntax works, now let's show you an example of the conditional statement. Let's say here I have years, which is going to be my variable. Years is 20. So if age or years is greater or equal to 18, then I want to print out that you are an adult. If I print this out, you will see that there's going to be an error on the first line because we don't need this. Now let's just run the program and you will see that you are an adult. Now I'm going to put in another statement. Let's say elif, which is going to be our second statement. If years is, let's say, less than 18, then I want to print out that you are a minor. And if none of the criteria meets up the condition, then I want to print out you are a child. There we go. Now print this out. You can see you are an adult. If I change out the data to 17 and run the program, you will see it will print out you are a minor. Okay? So here we can also put in lesser or equal to. It will also work the exact same way. But if I put in, let's say, 13 and run the program, you can see you are still a minor. In this case, what I can also do is add in another. So years, which is going to be lesser equal to, let's say, 17. Then it should print out you are a child. And here I'm going to put in invalid request. There we go. You are a minor. So you can see this is lesser or equal. But here, if you put in greater, it is going to work a bit different. Run the program. There we go. 12. Run the program. And there we go. This is how it works. You can see if it is lesser than 18, this is how it should work. If it is lesser than 17 or equal to 17, then you will be a child. Okay? So this is basically how you'll be able to run these type of programs and make sure that your decision is made by Python. Now you can still see it is still printing out you are a minor. In that case, you have to make sure to put in proper, conditions and proper, strings to make sure that your condition is met properly and is understood by Python. Now, based on this code, it will never print out that you are a child. But in that case, if you want to do that, first off, what we're going to do is that if the years, over here, I'm going to put in 13, and I'm going to make sure that 13 is greater. Here, I can print it out that you are a child. There we go. Now here, as you can see, it is greater, or 18 is greater, then here, you are a minor. And if this is greater or equal to 18, here I'm going to put in you are an adult. Now if I try running this program, you will see that it will print out you are a child. Then if I change this to 17, run the program, you are a minor. If I put in 24, run the program, you will see you are an adult. So why does it work like this but not how I put it the first? It's because the current code or the previous code that we were running is that if yours was greater or lesser than 17, it is also true. And if the yours was lesser than 18, that was also true. So Python will just basically stop at the second condition, and it will never reach out to the third one. So you have to make sure that Python validates your request and also your conditions whenever you are working along with it. Okay? So now you know how you'll be able to work with the if, elif, and the else. Now let's do another thing. Now here, I've shown you how you'll be able to work with the, if, elif, and the else statement. But what if you want to do just only two, which is the if and the else? So let's say I'm going to have a temperature of 30 degrees Celsius. Here, if the temp is greater than 25, then it should print out, let's say, it is hot today. And if it doesn't meet up the criteria, then it should print out it, or let's say the temperature is, let's say, chill. There we go. If I just run the program, you will see that it is hot today. But if I print out over here to be 20 and run the program, you will see that the temperature is chill. So what happens over here is that Python checks the condition. Only one block will be executed if you are using the if and only the else. And it is basically very useful in machine learning, like if probability is greater than a specific percentage, then classify, specific criteria. But in the same way, as you can see, we use the if, elif, and the else. So first off, here the program checks what is the mentioned years. Okay? Now it is going to turn true if it is run by the code inside in the if block. Okay? Another thing is that Python checks each condition from top to the bottom. So everything is validated inside. And when one condition is true, it stops checking any further and doesn't rerun the program anymore. So it is basically very useful in real world classification logic. So obviously you're not going to be working with only one or two logic or one or two condition. But in this way, you'll be able to work with several and multiple conditions just the way you want it to be. So this is basically how you're going to be working with the conditional statements in Python, and these are the if, elif, and the else statement. Okay, so hope you understood about this part. Now let's create another Python file to show you how does loop work in Python. Here I'm going to name it loop1_example. Okay, so as we have the loop1 example, the first thing you have to understand when you are working with loop is that why is loop important in Python or even data science or machine learning or AI. So first things first is that whenever you are using loop in Python, it iterates through specific data set. Now it could be a large data set, it could be a small data set, but iterating through them cannot be done by all modules or all type of functions. But when you are using loops, it is basically going to loop, iterate, and also repeat the exact same code block over and over again without facing or without any errors. Okay? Another thing about loops is that it helps you to clean up specific data, such as it helps you to search for the data, search for the specific code block, and clean up the data. Then it helps you to process millions of rows. Now, certain type of function does not help you to iterate through certain or specific or limited amount of rows or range of data. But whenever you are working with loops, it is basically going to work with millions of data, and it is still going to give you out the result in milliseconds. So it is almost like the fastest function or the fastest functionality of using loops in Python or even in machine learning, data science, or even big data sets. Now, the last advantage of using loops is training modules. Now, in machine learning, training modules or models are very important to find out, predict, and even visualize specific type of data, which are also known as epochs or batches. Now, just like I said, it can iterate through millions of rows or columns in one go and give you out results in milliseconds. It has zero error whenever you are working with it. Now, the first thing you have to know about loops, I'm going to give you an example of the syntax. So, whenever you are using loop, first off, you put in for. Let's say I'm going to show you for the for loop. For, here you're going to put in the variable, then you put in, and then you put in the sequence. Well, if you still don't get the idea, I'm going to give you an example, and then you want to repeat the code. Okay, so this is the syntax of using loops in Python. Now, first off, let me show you how you can loop through a list. Let's say I'm going to have veg equal. Now, obviously, you know, when you want to create a list, we use these secondary brackets. Let's say in veg, we have potato. Then we have onion. And then we have, let's say, cabbage. Here, I'm going to put in for item in veg. So each of these data is an item. So after veg, I'm going to print out the exact same thing, which is item. If I print out the whole thing, you will see potato, onion, and also cabbage printed in each index. So basically the loop runs one time for each element. Now, obviously, you know, if you want to print them out step by step, what you have to do is type in print and then put in double quotation, type in potato. Then you have to put in print, put in onion, and also print. Then you put in cabbage. If you run this, everything will be printed in the same way. But when you are working like this, it is going to take you a lot of time and it is going to take you a lot of effort. But if you are using the for loop, it is going to run the program all at once, saving a lot of time and iterates through specific or even big data sets. Okay, now as we know about how to iterate or loop through a list, now I'm going to show you how you can loop using range. Okay, so first off, let's create a range. So here for I in range. Now I'm going to put in a specific number. So up till 5. Here, I want to print out iteration, colon, comma, and then put in I, which is the item. If I run the program, you will see iteration 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, even though we have put in 5, already you know whenever you are working with programming languages, the last number is an exclusive, and the index of the number starts from 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it already adds up or sums up to 5. Okay? So if you actually want to print it up till 5, you have to put in 6, which is going to be the exclusive number, and you will see it will be printed up to 5. Okay, you can also change the text here. Let's say range iteration, run the program, and everything will be run at the same way. But if you want to use print, that is going to obviously take a lot of time. Another thing, that when you want to print out 6, which is the exclusive, it actually prints out exactly 6 times when you are running the program only once. Now, it is used everywhere in machine learning and also training loops when you are using for. Okay, now the last thing that you need to learn about this class is going to be the while loop. So let me show you the index or the syntax of the while loop. You put in while just like this, and then you put in the condition. Then you put the same thing of keep the loop or the code repeating. Okay, this is the syntax. So if you want to run it with the example, let me just show it to you. Let's say I have a digit. The digit is 1. Here I'm going to put in the while the digit is lesser or equal to 6, which is the condition. If I want to print out, let's say digit count colon, and then put in the digit as the variable. Now the last thing that I'm going to do is I want to increment the value 2 at once. So here I'm going to put in digit plus or equal to 2. In this way, it will just keep on adding 2 values from 1. There we go. We have 1, 3, and 5. But it is not going to go up till 6 because that is the exclusive number. Another thing is that it's going to keep on repeating until the condition becomes false. Now this is often used for tasks that depend on external conditions. Now even if you want to put in something like 999 and run the program, it is still going to run up till 999. Okay, now one thing over here is, why does it print out 999? It is because it adds up to 2. In that way, it adds up to 999. If I put in 100 or 1000, then you will see that it is going to print up till 999 again. There we go. Because if you're adding in 2 more, it just sums up to 1001, which is not a part of the condition, and it also violates the condition. In that way, it is still not going to print out, but if you put in 1001, it will still print out up till 1001. Okay? If you put in lesser than 1001, then it will print up again up till 999. Okay? Now, as you know, and you've learned about the while loop too, now let me show you an example of how you'll be able to use it in AI and also machine learning loop style. So first off, let's create another Python file. Here I'm going to put in AI ML example. So the first thing is that you have to know that in AI and ML, there are epochs and also bursts. Okay, so let me just use epochs. Epoch is going to be equal to, let's say, 2 in this case, and I'm going to put in a total epoch is going to be equal to, let's say, 5 in this case. You can also put in lesser or greater. It just depends on whichever condition you want to use. Here, what I want to do is going to be using the while loop. So here I'm going to put in while. Okay, this is how you want to put it in. There we go. So while the epoch is lesser or equal to the total epoch value, put in colon, and after that we want to print out, let's say, training the values in ML/AI, put in comma, and put in epoch. On the last one, I'm going to put in epoch plus or equal to 1. Run the program. It will still run in the same way, but when you are working with AI and also machine learning, make sure to use epoch, not a different variable. Basically, this represents how machine learning is going to use your code or your structure for model training, and also it is going to multiple times over the data. Another thing, it is going to be automated. So I'm not just showing you the whole process, but giving you an idea about how the syntax works when you want to use epoch or conditional looping, or even, all of these steps into machine learning directly. Okay, so let me show you how you can combine the conditions with specific loops. Okay, so first off, let's say I'm going to have another digit, but I'm going to loop through a list. Let's say I'm going to start off with 20, 30, 40, then I'm going to put in 51, comma, and then 58. Okay, so I'm going to put in for digit in digits. There we go. Here, I'm going to put in if number percentage to get the modulus. Let's say 2 is completely equal to 0. Here, I'm going to print out, let's say, digit. It is even. Okay, so if there is 0 remainder left, then obviously it means that it is an even number. But if the modulus shows up as 1 or 3 or 4, not 4, it is going to be equal, but if it's like the odd numbers, everything is going to print out as odd. Okay, so put in digit first is odd. Now you can run the program, you will see an error. But here, you're going to put in, let's say, I'm going to put in digs. Run the program, and there we go. You can see if number. So we have a number over here. Instead of that, I'm going to put in dig, or digits. Okay, run the program, and there we go. We have another modulus, which is part of the problem. So let me just fix this out. Let's say percentage. So here, we're just going to cut this part out to make sure that every digit is validated. Now run the program, and there we go. We have 20, 30, 40, 51, 58 is even, and then this is odd, and the last one is also even. Okay, so basically what it does is that it loops and goes through each and every value. Then the condition is checked up if it is an even or an odd number. And the most important part about this process is that it is for dataset filtering and also pre-processing. Now there are also a lot of, let's say intermediate process or functions that I did not show you in this class, because I have made this class in such a way it is very beginner friendly. So I'm going to show all of those to you later on in this course. Now, first off, let's just get into the summary. So what we've learned in this class is the conditional statements of the if, elif, and the else, and how these conditions are validated. And also we've learned about the syntax. In loops, we learned about for loop, while loop. We also worked with range, and also we worked with real machine learning loop example. Okay, now another thing what you have to keep in mind is to practice along. So I'm going to give you out a homework where you're going to loop numbers from 1 to 30, and you also want to print out, let's say, specific keywords. You can choose any 3 keywords. First off, the keyword which you're going to use, you're going to make sure that it is divisible by 4. The next keyword that you're going to use should be divisible by 5. And the third keyword that you want to use, it should be divisible by both the numbers which I mentioned in the first place. Okay, so that is it for this class, and hope you understood about everything. If you still have any confusion or any question about any part of this lesson, feel free to ask me anytime. I'm always there to help you out. So just practice along, do not memorize anything, and you can reuse these codes if you want to, and just keep on practicing. So without any further ado, let's move on to our next class, of AI, machine learning, dataset, and data science.